Hello everybody, your friendly neighbourhood docker here. I've been spending most of this week sorting out stuff in my room, and one of the things that I had to sort out was part of my music collection. Now, some of you may know, some of you may not know, my music collection is rather large, so I've decided to show you all the stuff that I've got on vinyl. Now, I've been collecting vinyl ever since I was about 14 years old. I used to go to a little music shop in Plymouth called Really Good Records. Nowadays I usually get them at record fairs or a few local stores in Wolverhampton or Birmingham. Now I'm going to start with the 7 inches. Now this first one is very close to my heart. This is Livingstone's So Tough. Now you will have heard this before if you are versed in my channel, because it is my theme tune. And the reason that I use it as my theme tune, and it's on green vinyl, is because it's on a very small label that only did like 2 bands. This band only did 3 singles before splitting up, and yeah, so there's no copyright on it, so I'm quite lucky on that one. Next up, Birthday Parties Release the Bats, a must-have for any goth lover. Gotta admit, I got a soft spot for this one. Aha's Living Daylights. Next up, Root Juice's Long Way. I do enjoy this one. It's another one of those kind of 90s indie bands that hardly anybody remembers these days, and it still comes with the free poster. A rather battered copy of U2's Unforgettable Fire single, and a follow-up to that, U2's Pride off the same album. Double disc again, gatefold. Got that years ago. It's not in the best condition, but... And just to add insult to injury, it's another U2, New Year's Day, double disc as well. Explosiveness Bounds. I don't even remember the name of the title track. Simon Templar. But I only really got this because of the punk track 2 pints of lager and a packet of crisps, please. Rocaria by ELO. Doesn't really have a cover to it, but got it in a charity shop, so it's not that bad. And then ELO's Rock and Roll is King. Now, I don't know, because sometimes people used to put their names on it, but I'm unsure of whether or not that's a signature. Then we got Depeche Mode's Love in Itself. The Kinks, You Really Got Me, because, you know, gotta have to. Don't know why I have this on. Europe's The Final Countdown. I hate this tune. I think I bought it for an ex, and then I never ended up getting her to keep it. Next up, one of my favourite bands, Easy World. It's their first release on Fierce Panda Records, one of my favourite record labels of all time. And then next to that, you have Easy World's You and Me off their debut album. That's Clear. Oh, God, I love it when they do these kind of coloured clear things. Easy World's How Did It Ever Come to This? The last single they released before they called it a day. Then Dave Ford, the singer, went on and made quite a lucrative solo career. Mortis's Decadent and Desperate. Now, I got this from him at a gig, which I also did a little shoot for him with. This is one of my prized possessions, one that a lot of Gorillaz fans out there will probably be quite envious of. This is the 7-inch picture disc of Feel Good Inc. Now, I've played it like once or twice because the B-side at the time wasn't available in any other format, and this was before you could just... You know, this was like, what, 2006? 2005 this came out. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. Next is something that I think Sarah found for me. It's Garbage's Milk. And then another Gorillaz release. This one is Donkomatic, one that I haven't even opened. See, this is how big a collector I turned into. A bit of a weirdo. Kids with guns. Kids with guns. It's a red vinyl. But it won't be long. Then next, The Sisterhood, which is Andrew Eldritch's little side project before he went on and did the second Sisters of Mercy album. Mechanical Cabaret's Cheap and Nasty, signed. Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World, the perfect driving song. Don McLean's Vincent and Castles in the Air. The 7-inch version of This Corrosion by Sisters of Mercy. Now we're on to the 10-inch. Oh boy. First up we have 9 Inch Nails' Survivalism. Now I remember vaguely that Trent was planning on releasing a few of these tracks from the Year Zero album as a set, and then you could buy off his website or order a little kind of box to collect them all in. But he only ended up releasing 2 10-inch singles off of it. There was this one, and Capital G, with a rather disappointing remix of Survivalism on it, if I remember, because I haven't listened to this one in ages, because I've not really got much of a reason to. Right, next is The Hand That Feeds off the album before Year Zero, which is With Teeth. And then we have one of the many releases from across the world of 192000. It's a nice little 10-inch mix. It's got 3 tracks on there. You've got the original mix, the Soul Child mix, and the Wise Guys House of Wisdom mix. Cure's Half an Octopus. Not in the best condition, but I saw it and I thought, no, it's nice, I'll have it anyway. And last but not least, a rather battered looking promo of the Gorillaz Space Monkeys versus Gorillaz. And now let's move on to the 12 inches because I have an awful lot. Which stack do I start with? Starting up, Sisters of Mercy, Under the Gun. This is the one they released for, I think their best of. Still comes with a poster. Alongside that, Temple of Love 1992, and I think that comes with a poster as well. Yes, it does. Dr. Jeep. Does this one have a poster as well? This one has a poster as well. The other release of Dr. Jeep, Creation My Reflection, and then Dominion, which is one of my favourites. I've got this as a 3-inch CD single as well. Next is Sisterhood's Gift. And like I said before, this was what Eldritch released like really quickly before he did the second album, because this was just after Wayne Hussey of The Mission had left, and he was planning on making a band called the Sisterhood. And so Eldritch decided, in his infinite wisdom, to create an EP under that name so Eldritch couldn't use it. Oh, Eldritch, you are a silly goose. Next up, No Time to Cry, going further back in time now. Poison Door and Walk Away. Body and Soul. I have that as a back patch somewhere. The original Sisters of Mercy's Temple of Love. The Reptile House EP. And the earliest one that I've got is the original release of Alice. Now, I know that there are some that are a bit further back from that, but they're not easy to get hold of. I know that they've re-released like a box set of all the singles on 12-inch, but I prefer the originals. Come on, man, that's all analogue, you know. Next up, U2, Under a Blood Red Sky. And then next to that, Unforgettable Fire. We have the Joshua Tree itself. I saw these guys play it live over the summer in Twickenham. And then I only got this recently from Swordfish Records. It's the 12-inch gatefold version of Desire. Next up, Human League. This is their worst album to date, Crash, and they knew that it was bad, and that's why they called it Crash. And then, of course, the classic Human League's Dare, an album that every record collector should have in their collection. Now, next up, something that I'm just going to quickly spin through, because a few weeks ago my dad came to visit me, and he handed me this big parcel, and it had written on it in marker pens, the 10 albums that you must have in your music collection. So I was like, ah, okay, that's interesting. So I opened it up and I got them all out. And they only all happened to be Beatles albums, didn't they? These were all the versions that he bought in the 80s. And apparently he's now on his 4th re-release on vinyl now. So he decided to give me these old ones. And these are the ones that he used to play when I was a kid. So that's quite nice. So you got With the Beatles. He's missed out Beatles for Sale and Please Please Me. So not particularly happy about that, but never mind, can't win them all. Hard Day's Night. And we've got Help, which I remember being titled as something different in Spanish and other languages, which is, might like to get that, just a difference in album cover. Rubber Soul, which is by far one of the best early Beatles albums, very self-deprecating. And I prefer it to Revolver, even though for some reason Revolver's my favourite Beatles album. Can't say why, it's probably got that kind of chameleon circuit factor to it. Then of course you've got Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Yeah, we've all got to have Sgt. Pepper, haven't we? Really? Yeah. And it's still got all the little accessories inside as well. Then we've got Yellow Submarine, which I'm singing not in tune because I know that if I try and sing it I'll probably get flagged because Apple are like that. Right, now then, Magical Mystery Tour comes with a nice little booklet because it was originally one of those kind of TV film things. And it was after they'd had success with other films as well. It didn't do as well, sadly. Then we got the White Album, which is in a cover now that's quite residued on. But yeah, and that comes with some little kind of promotional pictures and posters and whatnot. You'd think that was somewhat special, but the majority of them had them. And then of course we've got the Abbey Road, which not a particular favourite of mine. Now then, on to one of my favourite bands of all time, Apollo 440, and we're starting at the end with Dude Descending a Staircase. That's the 2-record set, one-sided 12-inch of Charlie's Angels 2000. I thought I was getting the regular version because I was going to get it for the B-side Wall of Death, which I put up on my channel, link up there. 2-disc version of Stop the Rock. I like getting the 2-disc promos for Apollo 440. Promo for Heart Go Boom. Ah, the gatefold of Lost in Space. That terrible, terrible 90s reboot film that, let's face it, if done today, it would be very dark and still very bad. And we have the promo 12-inch of the song they did for the game Rapid Racer, Carrera Rápida. I don't know. Which, of course, this was when they started to use Mary Biker from Gay Bikers on Acid. Have the 2-disc vinyl release of Raw Power. This is one of the first things that I got from Really Good Records back in the day. This is Krupa, the 2-disc set of that. I remember looking for hours in that shop, just rooting around boxes, and finally came across this and thinking it was like the most amazing thing in the world. And then, just to finish off the collection from the second album, the 2-disc release of Ain't Talking About Dub. And then I've also got just the regular 12-inch version as well. I think I might have found that first. And then going back even further, this is their first album, Millennium Fever, on 12-inch. I would like to get the second and third albums on vinyl as well, but they're not as easy to find. And going even further back, you've got Apollo 440's Rumble EP, which features versions of Rumble, a version of Rumble that doesn't, which is different to the album version. The Lolita and Destiny 92 AA side. This is one of the last ones that they released before doing album stuff. So, yeah, but I found this on a CD as well, and that's not easy to find on a CD, about 20 odd quid. And then this is one of their first singles, Destiny. Now then, onto some proper 80s goth. We have Bauhaus's Kick in the Eye, 4AD EP, which has things like Dark Entries and Telegram Sam and Ziggy Stardust. I'm not a huge fan of Bowie's Ziggy era, but I do like this cover. And another thing that every goth should have in their record collection, Bela Lugosi's Dead. Then, just for some weirdities, I've got Enigma's Principles of Lust, and the single for Push the Limits, which I only recently got from, I think it was Wolverhampton, and I got it because the ATB remix on there is really good. Some dance, we got the original, the first ever Prodigy release. I think that might be, is that the original, or is that a, because I know that about a few years ago XL Records did like a whole set re-releasing a lot of the stuff. And then next up, Awesome Threes Don't Go. I think that's the re-release with all remixes on it. Alternate. I love a bit of Alternate. Hybrid. I love a bit of Hybrid. This is the track they did for Kevin and Perry Go Large. The Kid 2000 track, which I think is a cover. Chemical Brothers Believe got this because there's a really nice long version of it on here. Next up, My Prized Possession. I love this so much. This is Tones on Tails Twist on blue vinyl. Then we've got KMFDM's Money. Wish I had more KMFDM in my collection, but hey ho, I got a lot of it on CD. Butthole Surfers, The Hurdy-Gurdy Man. My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult, Sex on Wheels. This is the easiest single to find of theirs. The rest of their stuff's not easy at all. Cubanate Voids. Their Meat Beat Manifesto Strap Down, which doesn't actually even have a track listing on it, which is fairly annoying, but I got that the last time I was down in Plymouth, and I love it. It's a good piece of early industrial. 9 Inch Nails is Fixed. Love playing that when I was still living with my parents. Used to play it loud on my dad's record player. Next to that we have Pretty Hate Machine. Ooh, nice bit of goth. We have the original Sudden Death Cult album. This is the band that would eventually become the Cult. The single that came off that, Fat Man. I think there's a... Yes, there is. Except the disc has actually fallen out in the case. That's the original little 7-inch EP there. Then we have some Filter. We've got the remixes of Take a Picture. And also The Best Things as well. Next up, Scraping Feet Off the Wheel, bit of Jim Thirlwell. And just to go with it, one of the early singles, you've got Feeders on Your Breath, which has got Wash It All Off on it, which is one of my favourite tracks of all time. Then we have a nice bit of 80s nostalgia with The Art of Noise. This is the 7-inch stuff, because they didn't have space to put the 12-inch stuff on just one record. I've got the 12-inch one, I think, on CD somewhere. But I'll always, if given the chance, I will always listen to a bit of Art of Noise. And saying that, this is one of my favourite singles by Art of Noise. This is Dragnet, one of the best films to come out of 1987. Dragnet. Thank God it's Friday, am I right? Another little something from my dad's record collection that he gave me. Out of the Blue by ELO. And then I also got hold of New World Records, because I thought, ELO, you've got to have it on vinyl, really. And then next to that, Jeff Lynne's Armchair Theatre. This used to be my dad's copy when I moved up to Birmingham. I stole it. It's got some fantastic photography there in the guise of Andrew Earle, who also went on to do Robbie Williams' first album cover. Next we have a promo vinyl release. I thought I was getting a CD, but instead I got vinyl, of Voodoo Child's Dog Heaven. Voodoo Child is one of the many aliases for Moby. Nice little promo release of All That I Need Is To Be Loved, one of the few tracks that I actually liked off his 97 album. What was it called? Animal Rights, that's the one. Soul Coughing's El Oso. This is a re-released 2-disc version. And then I also found, when the local Music and Goods Exchange was closing down a couple of years ago, they were giving away stuff. And I found a white label version of Super Bonbon by Soul Coughing in there. So quite chuffed about that. I mean, I wasn't chuffed that my favourite music shop was closing down, but swings and roundabouts, I suppose. Next up, we got some of the old Johnny Violent stuff. So we got North Korea Goes Bang, quite topical in this day and age. It's only been 20 years. And then also we have the first album by Ultraviolence, Life of Destructor, on vinyl. And even going further back, there's the stuff that he did on Safe Records' Vengeance EP. And then, even more miraculous, if you go back even further, white label version of his first ever single, Shout. Next up, Paul McCartney's Flower in the Dirt World Tour Pack. It's not complete, it's got a few things missing, but it's got all the posters. And my dad gave me that, so I gave him the standard version of Flowers in the Dirt to recompense. And he also, a couple of years ago, gave me some mono tatted mono. He also gave me some tattered mono versions of Revolver and With the Beatles a couple of years back. Now we're getting back into Gorillaz territory. So we're going to go back in time from the second album backwards. We start with the Metronome remix of El Manana on white label, as well as the Quiet Village remix of Kids with Guns, which I actually really love. I really like that one. And then even further back, we have the single-sided single of Gorillaz with D12 with 911. Then we have Tomorrow Comes Today on 12-inch, and it's got a really nifty remix of film music on there, which wasn't featured anywhere else. I know that Hybrid were planning on putting it on one of their mixed CD things. It was mentioned in a promo version, but ended up not staying on there, sadly. Then next up, the 12-inch version of 192000. And then I've got the re-release of the first album, of course, because, you know, kind of have to. We have some Placebo re-releases. Black Market Music, Without You I'm Nothing on yellow vinyl. I remember the guy telling me at the store, oh sorry, we've only got yellow vinyl left. And I was like, oh no, whatever will I do? I might as well buy it then for like a cheap price, but there we go. And then we've got Placebo's debut album as well on vinyl. I would like to get that on red vinyl, but I'm not too fussed. Nice bit of 80s nostalgia with Kissing the Pinks, Watching Their Eyes. And then to go with it, this is the album that came with it, Naked, which is one of my favourite albums. Came out in 1983. Next we're getting into some right early Ministry. Revenge, which is off his first album. And speaking of his first album, here's the album that Al Jorgensen wishes everybody would forget. Oh, it's With Sympathy. Then we got some nice early goth from Bradford. We've got 1919. As well as their single Cry Wolf, which I actually really like. I really like the B-side Dream on that. They didn't release that much, but for what they did release, I actually really enjoyed. Next up, we're going down the 90s dance route with some Fatboy Slim, Don't Let the Man Get You Down. Then we've got Halfway Between the Gutter and the Stars, which I've got there. And this is one of the first things I ever bought. Everybody Needs a 303. I love the B-sides on this. Lincoln Memorial, and I really want to see those fingers. I love the B-sides on that one. And then the first thing that Skint Records ever released. It says so there. Skint 1. Santa Cruz by Fatboy Slim. Next up, some Black Country bustin' stuff with Pop Will Eat Itself. This Is the Day, This Is the Hour, This Is This. We've also got Cure for Sanity on Picture Disc, an album which I really need to get the 2-disc version of. But because Cherry Red didn't release enough copies, it goes for an awful lot these days. Next up, you remember when I mentioned Easy World? Well, this is David Ford, the singer's solo album Charge. Then found this recently, In Excess's X. I found that in a charity shop, actually. Next on to one of my favourite punk bands of all time, Bus Station Loonies. Mad Frank Zonal Disco. This is their first album, which was released in 1999. Doesn't feature all the tracks off the CD version, though. Still mean to get the CD version. Next up, The Beloved's Happiness. Love a bit of early 90s there. Now then, Emperor's Prometheus. This is on grey vinyl. Next up, What a Tonal Shift. Jamiroquai's Emergency on Planet Earth. I love this album, and it was brilliant when I actually got it, because it kind of encapsulates what records are about. It's not just about the discs, it's about the artwork as well. When you look at that, it's just white artwork. But if I was to open it up, I won't open it up now because it's quite fiddly to get back in its bag. But just so colourful on the inside, and I just thought that's a fantastic little idea. Next up, a bit of a departure for Ear 8 Records. This was Rival Sons' Pressure and Time, and I remember seeing the band play this in Wolverhampton a couple of years back. Next is an album which I've only recently gotten into, a band that I've only gotten into recently. Which way you want to take it? This is Micro Disney, The Clock Comes Down the Stairs. Now I love the artwork for this. This was an 80s Irish kind of indie band. Think Tears for Fears mixed with the Smiths but in Ireland. So you've still got that kind of political edge with the lyrics, but it's still quite cheery to listen to. I really enjoy this album. Jeff Wayne's War of the Worlds. I know I should love it. And I've got it because every person should have it in their record collection. But this used to scare the crap out of me when I was a kid. Next, Heavenly Records' Dog, which they released one album and a few singles. But I really enjoy this. Heavenly Records, you did a good job with these guys. Please see about doing a re-release or remaster. I would love to see that. Peter Gabriel's So, just because it's got Red Rain and Sledgehammer on it. Next, for some reason, I have Dokken Under Lock and Key. I think I got these because it was a girl that I was dating. She really liked her 80s hair metal. Gorgeous re-release of their first album. Nom, 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 nom. This is very colourful on the inside. Got pink vinyl as well. I'm going to get this. Do you know what? Screw it. I'm going to get this out. Because then you get to see how colourful it really is. And then you open it up. You've got pink vinyl. Ooh. Next up, Cold Cut. What's that noise? I only got that recently from a little music shop called Oldies in Wolverhampton. Then we go back in time to Jules Holland and his 1991 album The Full Complement. I used to love listening to this when I was a kid in my dad's car. And then also Sensational Alex Harvey Band, one of their best of albums. Next, Drill Your Own Hole by Gay Bikers on Acid. Still got to listen to this because I only got it recently, but yeah, I've been slowly getting into that whole Grebo kind of thing. My missus has been getting me into it. Next up, Susie and the Banshees' Juju, probably their best album that is my opinion anyway. You can take it or leave it, but I do really enjoy this album, and I always listen to it around Halloween because there's a track called Halloween. This is Replicas, Gary Numan's Replicas, Two-Way Army stuff. This is a re-release. Yeah, it's a re-release. But I think it's because last year when he came to visit me, I was trying to convince him that not all 80s music was bad, and I played him Gary Numan's last album as opposed to the one he's just released. And he was blown away by it, so obviously he felt the need to buy me some Gary Numan. I haven't really listened to it that much, got to admit. Next up... And that was when my phone died and ran out of space. I do have a few other records out there, a few dotted around the place, but I don't really have time to talk about them now. If you like the video, then feel free to give a little like in the corner. If you want to subscribe to my channel, if you haven't already, feel free to do that as well. And if you want to ding that little bell, feel free to ring my bell. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.